Okay, welcome everyone who is coming in for our virtual tour of communities event. My name is Cynthia. Big welcome to all of you who are watching on our Facebook live stream or coming into the Zoom session. And this is our monthly virtual tour of communities where we sit down with 3 different communities from around the United States, sometimes around the world, and we learn about them. We get a 10-minute peek into their lives, their story of creating community, and you can learn how you can get involved with those communities. And my name is Cynthia. I also live in an intentional community in Vermont. And I have been involved with FIC for many years, and I now work as a community matchmaker, helping people find a community that's a good fit for them. So I'm going to share my screen here and run through a short presentation just to get you settled with today's event. There we go. So I'll turn this on. Okay, so this month we have 3 communities I'm very excited about. 2 I have actually visited before, including the farm community in Tennessee, GaiaYoga Gardens in Hawaii, and Whole Village Ecovillage in Canada. And we have shifted to our new time. So we were previously on the last Thursday of the month. We're now on the first Thursday of the month, and we have shifted the time a little bit later. So we're now from 2 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern. So we'll go for about an hour and a half. We are going to kick things off by hearing from Whole Village Ecovillage, a community in Canada. And we have Carrie and Nancy here to present about their community. I actually have visited this community, but before these 2 were part of it, it sounds like. But I have wonderful memories of visiting this community for a Ecovillage gathering in 2013, maybe 2012. It was a wonderful experience. So looking forward to getting the latest from the 2 of you. Go ahead.
Get me unmuted here. Hello, everybody. My name is Carrie, and 3.5 years ago, I moved from Toronto to Whole Village. The reason I did was really to grow more of everything possible, and to live in a community of people who are dedicated to working towards a healthier planet. And let me introduce Nancy, or have Nancy introduce herself.
So I moved here about 6 years ago. And then 4 years ago, I bought in as a shareholder member. So it's a cooperative. And the reason I came is I'm really an environmentalist. And this way I can live and model a way of life that might make a difference. It makes a little difference. And I can live with purpose. It's really important to me. And then I also sell real estate, and I'm also a new grandmother. So life's really, really busy.
Nancy's going to turn on a slideshow sharing her screen that'll run while we tell you about Whole Village, and hopefully we'll have time for some questions. Whole Village is an intentional farm eco-village in Caledon, Ontario, Canada. We are situated at the headwaters of the Credit River watershed, which drains into Lake Ontario. We're on unceded land of the Mississauga of the Credit First Nation. We are 1 hour north of Toronto and just 10 minutes from the town of Orangeville, where we have everything that we could need close by. Home to about 20 people, ages from almost born, there'll be another one next month, to 78 years old. We have 2 original founders here. We're a mix of omnivores, vegetarians, vegans. Some of our residents are retired, some work from home here, and some work off-site. Because we are in Canada, people need to have legal status to live in this country.
We're located on 191 acres, and that is made up of gardens and pastures and wetlands, and there's a hardwood forest, and also a development area where our houses are. And the land was purchased over 20 years ago, And then they built this fabulous house which is 15,000 square feet in 2006. And we also have a big, large barn, good old, 150-year-old barn, and a century farmhouse. There's a pond created for irrigation, and it's great for swimming. And we try and eat organically. We grow a lot of our food, and we support local farmers for things that we can't produce. And we're also generally left of center politically. The first design of this Ecovillage was to have individual houses. And this is one of the really unique things about Whole Village. So zoning, which I think exists in a lot of places, made it so that was impossible. They couldn't buy this land and have a bunch of little houses, which was their idea. So they created this huge house, and then we have 11 suites in this house. The suites each have a kitchenette. So the only thing we're missing is a plug-in stove. We have burners, we have toaster ovens, we operate in our own quick kitchens comfortably. But because there's no plug-in stove in the units, we are classified as a single family dwelling. And they went to court and they won. And so it's a precedent, at least in this jurisdiction, and might work in other places if you're having problems with zoning. It's something that it's really great to be able to share. Over the 20 years, we planted over 28,000 trees. We got fruit bushes and orchards and perennial gardens and annual vegetable gardens, and then 2 food forests. So lots going on here.
And as we all learn from IC.org, it's important to have a vision and mission in an intentional community. And a few years ago, this community rewrote the vision and mission to tighten it up and generate some more clarity around it. We envision a transformed world in which humanity lives in right relationship within the web of life. To accomplish this, the mission is that Whole Village is a cooperative farming eco-village that aspires to model, support resilient, just, and regenerative systems. So how do we do that? We live with a much smaller footprint than the average household, times there's 20 people here, and work at mitigating climate change using regenerative agricultural principles and modeling this way of life for other people.
In fact, I wanted to say that someone did a study on us last year, and we are actually quite carbon negative. So that's pretty cool. So the residents and the volunteers work together in the gardens and orchards, and we take care of chickens, and we've got cows and sometimes rabbits, and we maintain the property. There's lots of upkeep to this. Everyone's expected to contribute to stewarding the land and also leading, starting over time to lead in a farm-related area. And we want people to take leadership also in organizational tasks, such as bookkeeping or filing or tours. There's, as you know, if you have lived in an intentional community, there's really a lot to do. And so it's a work of love, but we all do work pretty hard. We also have small enterprises. So there's cooperatives or co-ops, we call them, that are small businesses that individuals own. We have 2 apiaries. We have a maple syrup business, and the cows are a cow co-op. So that's not owned by Whole Village, but by a couple of individuals.
But we all get to enjoy the cows. It's very sweet. So what's it like living in community? We work together on a number of projects and the running of this place. We share meals together a few times a week, have some fun together, and have a lot of meetings. It takes a lot of meetings to keep a place going and moving, and that's that keeps us together. Seasonal celebrations are had. We have music events here when we have musicians and singers or quasi-musicians like myself. We've run house concerts, have regular games nights to play. Because we've got kids, the games nights also we incorporate for the adults and for children, and have a lot of fun together. However, living in community is also hugely confronting, especially for people who haven't grown up with this way of life. It's confronting, it's fun, and it is a great opportunity for personal growth, and to bring a deeper level of consciousness to who we are. Recently, we've taken on studying nonviolent communication with Steve Torma from Earthhaven community. We have been working with Enneagram to understand ourselves and each other better, and essentially learning how to communicate compassionately. It's not perfect. We are not perfect at it, but it's worth it. And we are working together to have community be more effective, more compassionate, and work on conflict resolution and communication. People ask what our governance is and how we make decisions. We are a cooperative with shareholder members, and we have some people here who rent as well. Our decision making is by a consensus model where everyone's ideas and concerns are heard. Each decision or proposal and big decisions run through our vision and mission to see if it fits. And because we work together on proposals, they wind up being better off than they would be if made individually or some other models. We're also all part of a variety of what we call mandate groups, committees, that fulfill on our strategic plans that we meet monthly, and it helps keep us going to reach goals and move things forward.
So things always change everywhere you are, of course, and so suites become available, things happen in people's lives. So we are actively recruiting for shareholder members. And we also are looking for people who can actively contribute to the community and help create change for the future. It's not the way it is forever. We can keep building on what we've got. And of course, well, I think Carrie will talk about membership. You can't just come in and buy.
Right. So we do have a membership process. It takes a year of getting to know each other, a little over a year, before people can become a shareholder member, because it is a bit like a marriage to 19 other people or so. There has to be a fit. There has to be a values fit and a communication fit. We need partners with social and emotional intelligence, good communication skills, and the ability to work physically to some extent. We are a farm.
And so it's not just a place to live. You can't just sit here and sip the lemonade. It's a project. And so we're trying to make a difference in the world. And it means that we live our life with purpose, which is a wonderful thing, I think. And so that's why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. So what are the steps? Excuse me. We invite people to start by having a thorough look at our website. Almost everything you want to find out is there. We have monthly orientations in person right now. They're listed on the calendar page of the website. And we will have Zoom orientations again in next January and February. And an orientation is the first step in the membership process. For visits, we currently have one Airbnb suite in the house, and our cabins or camping will be open June 1st, once we can turn the water on after it thaws, and we have no more frost. And I think we're pretty much complete with what we wanted to share, and hopefully there's questions. And I do want to thank IC.org for all the work you guys bring to connect us all and providing us with all these important resources. Your podcast is outstanding. We recommend it to everybody. So invite everybody to listen to the podcasts that were created last year. And happy to answer any questions you have.
Great. Thank you so much, Carrie and Nancy. That was a beautiful presentation. Very thorough, and I loved seeing all the photos. Yeah, it took me right back to your community. So yeah, it's a beautiful place. So I'm really glad that you went over how people can visit and join, because that's one of the most frequent questions that we get. So people just go to your website, ecovillage.org, and then there will be the contact information there, and they can come to visit or go through a trial membership after visiting. Is that correct?
almost, except it's wholevillage.org.
Wholevillage.org. Okay,
Yeah.
even more simple. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And one of the things I remember when visiting your community was how you were in this large building with all these different wings and nooks and crannies, and everyone kind of had their own space.
Yeah.
And that's what you needed to do to count as a single family.
Yeah, it's all about the plug-in stove, which you never knew it have known, right? So what designates an apartment in Ontario, but this also might be true in other places, is a plug-in stove in the apartment. So we have this, and so they couldn't build what they wanted to build. So then they got this new idea that we could have all separate apartments, but no plug-in stoves. We've got induction burners and toaster ovens and all that stuff. And then they took it to court and won. So it is something other people can do. It's very unique, but might be useful.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great. I love when communities can pioneer different mechanisms for getting around changing zoning regulations to make community more possible. Yeah, that's great.
It also allows for a really nice balance between having privacy and quiet, being able to go, into my suite, close the door, or coming out and being with people. So we've got a rec room, which is often filled with kids playing. So if I'm on my way to the kitchen, I get to stop and play with kids for a few minutes, which is a sheer delight.
Yeah.
Or come around around 5 o'clock, the masonry heater is lit. So we'll often find people sitting there and have a chat at the end of the day. And again, we have the option of just also being in our suite when we've had enough.
Yeah, that's great.
People.
Gradient between privacy and access to community. And you had mentioned there was a study done recently on the sustainability of your community.
Yeah, we had a guy come in doing his master's in climate change. So he calculated everything we do, and we were pretty curious. We wanted to know, are we really doing what we think we are doing? And so he did all our carbon creation and all our how we sequester carbon. We do, we have a lot of trees and things, and it's great. And we do make biochar, and we do a lot. And we're lucky, we live on a big place, but we're very carbon neutral, and that would be very negative carbon. Sorry, it's really satisfying.
Is that study or some facts from that study available?
On the website.
On the website? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you again, Carrie and Nancy. And if there are more questions later on from, people who are watching this later, we'll be sure to let you know if there's anything that's not on your website to be answered there. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, much appreciation. And great. We will go now to our next community, which is very large, very well-known community with a long, fascinating history. So I am excited for this presentation to hear from Douglas and Michael from the Farm community in Tennessee. And I'll hand it over to you two.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to be here, and it's refreshing to see such a young face so involved in community. We really appreciate you. And really loved hearing about your all's village up in Canada. It looks like you guys are having a good time up there. So we are kind of a unique situation here in the terms of intentional communities. Our community, the Farm, will be 52 this year, 52 years. And Michael and I have been here. I'll be 50 years in August. And Michael is a founding member from California, some of the original inhabitants here on the land. And we've got a little slideshow prepared for you. So we'll just jump right over there to, it says host disabled participant screen. We had a power outage and had to find our way back. And so I need to be made a co-host again in order to start my slideshow.
There you go. You should.
Very good.
Okay.
Here we go.
Yep. There we go. Looks good.
All right. I thought I'd just start out with a little overview of the community. Founded in 1971, we have 225 residents on a pretty big piece of land. We have 1,799 acres, and then there's a nature preserve and some other land that friends and family have purchased. So there's about 4,000 acres total that is under our influence and control. We were founded on nonviolence. We're the peace and love hippies from San Francisco. So that's something that remains, true through our 50-year history, is our commitment to nonviolence and respect for the earth, respect for nature. We've gone through a lot, which I'll go through in our history, but as far as how we're managed today, we have a board of directors. They have 3-year terms. I spent some time on the board. There's other committees like our membership committee, that's an elected committee. Lots of volunteer committees like land use, housing. Individuals pay $112 a month per adult to live here, and that covers things like our water system, maintenance of our buildings and roads, bookkeeping, administrative costs. We have a swimming hole with lifeguards in the summer for the kids. Our membership process usually takes several years. Someone would come in as a visitor and then become an extended visitor for maybe even up to a year before becoming a resident. You can become a resident faster than that, but a resident basically means that you're going to live in the community and we're going to get to know you. You're going to get to know us. There's no commitments on either side. So people rent during that period, and then they transition to a provisional member when the membership committee feels like they've been here long enough and they're requesting it. They become a provisional member for usually another 1, 2, 3 years before they're ready to run for a full member, which is voted in by the entire community. And if someone doesn't get enough votes, it doesn't mean they have to leave. It means that maybe there are people who still have some questions about, how they pay their bills, or the last argument they got in, how was that handled? Things they want to get straight about in order to feel good about making them a permanent member. And once you're a permanent member, you would pay a $3,000 membership fee, which goes back into our infrastructure, which makes you a permanent member so that you can maintain a house here, come and go without going through any more membership process. Jumping right in, our history goes all the way back to San Francisco, where people were coming together to explore the meaning of life, to find new meaning. And it really felt like it was time to not just talk the talk, but walk the walk, and left San Francisco and about 60 school buses and vans and associated vehicles, eventually finding land in Tennessee, and did a handshake deal with a fellow to purchase 1,000 acres for $70 an acre, later adding another 700 acres on top of that. This is an early picture where you can see we've put up our first water tower. You can see some orchards off in the distance. And so those first years were really our boot camp, our digging in. People moved out of the buses into army tents. We'd go into towns to tear down buildings, to get materials to put floors in them, and then put windows in them, and eventually a tin roof, and turn them into a little cabin or shack. And part of what our philosophy was about the concept of right livelihood, that your work is seamless with your ideals. So we started learning how to feed ourselves, growing our own food. We started learning the construction trades and going into towns and working to earn money for the community. At this point, we have a communal economy. All income is shared with the community, growing to 300, 500, 1,400 people by the end of the 70s, early 80s. So it was quite the scene. But it wasn't just about building the ultimate hippie commune. We also felt a responsibility to give back to the world, because we were coming from the white middle class for the most part, and realized that we were at the benefit of this capitalist system, and a lot of people had been left behind. What could we do to help out? So we created a nonprofit called Plenty, because we believe there's enough if everyone just shares. And one of our first tasks came about in 1976 when we heard about an earthquake in Guatemala. We sent down a team of carpenters who ended up building 1,300 homes, municipal buildings, school buildings. We then went on to building water systems to bring clean drinking water to people. We got involved in nutrition and introduced soy as a high protein food for people that were malnourished. And so our soy dairy down there has been going for over 40 years now. They sell tofu, they make ice cream out of the soy milk, and it's become a cottage industry for the village and supports people for towns on all sides. And it's just been one of our real fun projects. We went on to do projects in other parts of the world, including the South Bronx, where we started a free ambulance service, which eventually we turned over to the city there. Meanwhile, by about 1983, we realized we weren't making as much money as we were spending. There was the first oil crisis, gas prices shot up, construction work tanked. We were going broke, and if we didn't change, we were going to lose all of our land. So we had what's called the changeover of 1983, where every adult member would be responsible to pay some amount into the community. It was about becoming financially sustainable. You know, we were getting along as a community, but we needed to figure out how to truly support ourselves and what it took to live here. And we looked at everything in the community, every service, every operation, determined how much it was costing us, and it came to about $100 a month. And now 40 years later, it's $112 a month. So we've hedged on inflation pretty good in that way. And so part of becoming financially sustainable was developing our businesses and our companies. Our oldest business is the book publishing company. It focuses primarily on health and nutrition. Also, there's a whole library of titles by Native American authors that comes from our relationship with Plenty International and Native people. Probably our largest business is an electronic manufacturing firm that makes Geiger counters, something we started after 3 Mile Island in 1978. And so those products are sold all over the world, and with each unfortunate crisis, Fukushima being one of the largest last disasters, our products go into overtime trying to keep up with demand. Probably what we're best known for is the Midwifery Center. Women come from all over the world to have their babies here. We have our first generation of midwives is currently transitioning to our next generation of midwives. My wife is one of the midwives, and it's been a very much a blessing for the community to be about life and birth and the beauty that brings to the community. It's just, I can't say enough about it. The farm school has been going since the early days, and it's kind of an example of both a business and a nonprofit, in that, the nonprofit has staff, it pays the teachers, and so it has to function sustainably, economically, but it's, organized as a nonprofit, and we really have quite a few nonprofits here in the community. Swan Conservation Trust is the nonprofit land trust that owns a 1,400-acre nature preserve around the community. More Than Warmth creates quilts with school children in public schools all over the country that then are sent to children all over the world that are in crisis. And so it's about sending a message of peace and planting the seeds of peace in school children that then reach out to countries like Afghanistan, Africa, Cuba, just all over the world. Peace Roots Alliance is something that we started after 9/11 so that we could have a voice in the peace of justice movement. I was involved in this billboard campaign that put billboards up around the country. Farms Not Arms was a way to give farmers a voice in the peace movement, and that spun off into the Farmer Veteran Coalition, which is now completely staffed by veterans and helps them buy land, get education, market their products. So it's an idea of planting a seed and then letting it go off on its own. Plenty International is still active around the world, a lot of projects in Belize. My wife and I were down there doing midwifery training, school gardens. There's a lot of work in solar down there. We've also done work on the Gulf Coast after Katrina. Our Kids to the Country program brings children from homeless shelters here in the summertime to go swimming, ride bikes, and learn about conflict resolution. We're very active in trying to show what we believe through our actions. So you see a lot of green building here, from our solar school, largest passive solar building in the state, to our recycled dome made out of recycled steel and steel for the arches and the trusses. Our community center is made from recycled brick. The deck is locally harvested cedar. This is my home, a log cabin that's from locally harvested logs, cypress siding, recycled framing from the houses that we tore down, bamboo, central heat with wood. This house is about 80% recycled. Some newer members built this with recycled framing, flooring, siding, windows. This is an ICF home, insulated concrete form, where you're stacking these Lego-like blocks of styrofoam, filling them with concrete, tornado-proof, fireproof, very well insulated. The Deltec home is built completely off-grid and brought here as a kit. One of the things that's unique about us is because we hold our land all in common, the banks will not give us financing for building homes. So we have to come up with creative ways to finance homes. So this is an example of like a kit home. Michael, this is his home here, the Earth Shelter, built underground 3/4 of the way around with solar on the front end with large glass panels. The rock wall is thermal insulation catching the solar heat, the gain from those windows, to provide a thermal mass that maintains that earth core temperature. This is a natural materials home made out of straw bale, straw clay slip, cordwood. So lots of examples of green building. And so at this point, we're no longer a commune. Everybody's responsible for their own income and taking care of their families, but contributing towards the community. And so we regard ourselves as an eco-village. And so there's some criteria. If you look at the Global Ecovillage Network, different people that have done research on this, what constitutes an eco-village? And so an eco-village is full featured. We have gardens, we have a cemetery, a swimming area for the kids. Our seniors get together, our community center where we can get together in larger groups and hang out with each other. So it's very much, something that's evolved for taking care of people so that we can live closer to the natural world. An eco-village has multiple centers of initiatives. So there's ways for you to get involved in government, express yourself creatively, spiritually, start your own business. And so the final screen here is to look at what makes an eco-village. An eco-village can be sustainably continued into the future. And so sustainability is not just about solar panels and green homes. It's about passing on our ideals to the next generation. And we hope that's what makes us sustainable. We've got our young people are now taking over the board of directors, the membership. Our bookkeeper is done through people from what we would call the next generation. Michael and I are in that founding generation. And we just hope that they carry on our ideals and we can all make a difference together. Kind of talk nonstop there, Mike, but I'm used to giving this show. So we're open up for any questions that you may have, and I'll let Mike get a word in edgewise here.
Word. Go ahead, folks.
Word. Great. Oh, thank you so much, Douglas, for that presentation. I feel like you just compressed, more than 52 years of history into 10 minutes or so. So that was really impressive. And I had no idea. Like I've been to the farm. I went to the Ecovillage Center. I was there for a board meeting. I have just beautiful memories of being in the sauna and then jumping in the pond and just then seeing the Midwifery Center. But I didn't realize all of the global work that you've been doing around peace and veterans and all the different projects. So I'm just even more impressed than I was before, and want to thank you both for, being there really since the beginning and almost the beginning. It's amazing. Okay, so now we're gonna turn to questions for the farm. Seems there are a few questions coming in, and I'll just direct people as much as possible to put your questions in the Q&A box so that I can track them all there. And I also see Joel has their hand up. So Joel, if this is a question for the farm, I will call on you to speak because I'd love to know your question. But firstly, there's a question from Michael. What are your membership needs or goals at this time for the farm community?
That's an interesting question. I mean, because there's a lot of really great people who are who share a lot of our values, but we also I was looking at one of the questions about how we resolve disputes. That's on the chart, on the chat, And part of the thing about coming in here is that we we believe in being upfront with each other and speaking our mind, and we're so used to sorting it out with each other. In the old days, we'd sit around we had households of 30, 40, 50 people. We'd sit around in a household and sort it out. And we didn't have television, so we played music and we did all kinds of things. But we got used to, if you have disagreements, I mean, we all grew up in a very individualized society, and having to be forced to live together under intense conditions. It was like a big rock tumbler, where they tumble the rocks around and they gradually smooth each other out. So when you come into the farm, that's the one thing that people maybe not have been prepared for, is that, but the more you get to know each other, the more you get to see each other's quirks and stuff like that. So we believe in working that out at a personal level. If it gets to be where two people really try and can't do it, we have a conflict resolution group that will get together and help people. They'll meet with each person if there's a disagreement, and listen to them, and then bring them together, all with agreement. Nobody forces anybody to do anything, but it's available, and they keep busy, put it that way. So that's personal. In terms of the way things are here, we decide our policy like we vote for board of directors and membership committee, which are two committees that have a lot of power here. It's all elected. There's 7 members of each of those committees, and they make the policy. But if you don't like some policy, any 15% of the members can sign a petition saying, "Hey, we question this, and we want to have a meeting and a vote on it." And in a way, that's where the real power is. Because day to day, the board of directors manages it, and we keep a little surplus, and we get projects done and all. And the membership committee, yeah, we process. We keep getting a stream of new people. Lots and lots of people inquire about wanting to live here, and so we have to realize, okay, one of the first things we did, Douglas mentioned, we were up to 1,500 people on this property. I mean, we expanded way too far and way too fast. We were, youthful. With youthful enthusiasm. So we could do that again, but it's a little harder. You have to, used to be you came here and it was like 2 days or the rest of your life. You give up meat, beer, and cigarettes at the door. You agree to be nonviolent. You really
show up with your backpack.
Yeah.
Not that way anymore.
No, but that's how a lot of us, present people got here. So now you have to pretty much have your act together, figure out how you're going to make a living and all that. And you have to want to live with not just any people, but these people who are here. That's how it is. People who have tried different communities, you find the one that's really the right one for you. And we're very service oriented. We always want to be helpful, and we take care of each other. Somebody has a hard time, people show up. Somebody has an accident, and they're besieged by food from the rest of the community, that kind of thing. You get COVID, somebody shows up with your dinner.
So as far as membership goals, we don't really necessarily think about it as membership goals. The closest thing might be that in 20 years, a lot of us first generation are going to be gone, and we're still a significant number of the population and the revenue base that the community depends on. So there really does need to be a transition of new people coming in that are going to make this place economically viable, which I think it doesn't take that many people could handle it, but it's a more vibrant community. Things like our store, community dinners, all those things depend on a healthy population. And so it will be important for more people to join the community over the next 20 years.
Okay, great. So it sounds like you are looking for more young people, but somebody is asking, they're in their late 60s. Would you be accepting of them potentially?
If they have their future somewhat figured out.
Yeah.
Can they sustain themselves? And we're not necessarily equipped to take on somebody who in their very older years that needs a lot of care. It takes time to build up the friendships so that you have friends that will come in and take care of you. So the older you are, the less time you have to develop that.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you. And I want to go to Joel. You have your hand up, so I'd love to let you ask your question. And yeah, we'll just try to keep it brief. Joel, are you there from Altair Community?
I am unmuting. Yes, there we go. Yeah, we're going to be on the virtual tour next month. We're a farming community in southeastern Pennsylvania. And we just helped the Camp Hill, Kimberton Hills community here celebrate their 50th anniversary. And there was a professor who had studied intentional communities and said that very few communities last past 15 or 20 years. And he was celebrating Camp Hill at 50 years. You guys have made the grade. You are off the charts. This is a community that I'm proud to say you have diversified, you've remade yourself, and you're beyond the typical statistics for most communities. So I don't have a question. I just want to congratulate you. And we'll see you next month.
No, that's very sweet. Thank you so much, Joel. Really appreciate that. Great.
One thing I wanted to say about young people coming in is that they don't often have a lot of resources. And so that can be challenging, to build, unless a lot of times people start small and add on. And then there's also a demographic of people in their 50s to mid 60s that can cash out of the materialistic society and have a nest egg that allows them to come rent for a while they feel it out, and then be able to build when that time comes, because people do need to build. We don't have like empty houses sitting around very often. There's not a big transition of people coming in and out. So being able to build is part of what it takes to move here. And it could be that older demographic is easier for us to maintain than expecting a lot of very young people. We're always happy when they find a way in, and they do. But that's just kind of another detail.
Sometimes what's happened, we all had a bunch of kids and they all left, because you always leave your small town when you grow up, and some of them are coming back now, and they're pretty well like people who are established. They're in their mid 40s and they have a business, or, family,
Skills.
got stuff going on. So, and we expect more of that, actually. Believe it or not, some of our second generation, when they get ready to retire, are going to want to move here, for a lot of reasons, including it's paid for, it's affordable. I mean, we don't have a mortgage. it's 108 now, but I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
It's a good life.
It's a good life. Yeah.
Nice. Beautiful. Okay, I want to sneak in one more question. If this can be answered succinctly, it might be a little complicated though. There's a question here about how your organization may differ from the Henry George communities, such as Arden, where the land is owned collectively. And I would add to that, you had mentioned collectively owning your land so that individuals cannot get a mortgage to build or a construction loan to build. So what is your legal ownership structure? Curious.
Well,
It's in transition.
yeah, we own the land together, and that's it. And we've had a working agreement among us about individual households, and
A lot of trust involved,
yeah.
but we're currently working on a leasing contract system. And that's part of the transition to that next generation, as they've got the legal minds and aren't coming maybe from the old hippie days, that they see the need to get that organized for us. And so that's what's happening.
Well,
Okay.
we're communal, but we also, most of us want to leave some legacy now that we have individual, property, individual equity. We want to be able to transition that to our descendants or whoever we want to leave it to. So we have to have a way of doing it that's a little more defined than our, handshake kind of thing. We've done it that way for 50 years.
And
Wow.
like we've invested maybe a couple $100,000 in our individual houses. How do we pass that on to our kids?
Yeah.
And so this leasing system is helping to set up the structure for that.
Okay. So maybe more like a community land trust may lease holdings.
Well, we are.
Does this mean that everyone has their name on the deed, or is it a nonprofit that you all own, or?
It's a
A trust.
trust.
It is a
It's a
trust.
land
Okay.
trust, and technically it's held by our trustees. There are 5 trustees, and technically they hold it, and we re-elect them. We got an election coming up for them too, and it's largely been symbolic up to this point. But once again, the real world. Okay, now they're currently actively involved. They basically, the foundation that runs the community is working for the trustees. That's what the trust structure is,
Gotcha.
and so.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you
Okay.
become a member of the foundation, which is our corporate structure, which is then doing the bidding of the trust.
Yeah, you're a beneficiary. When you're a permanent member, you're a beneficiary of the trust.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for explaining that a little more.
Yeah,
It is interesting to, find out how communities make it all work on the back end. So
yeah.
good. Well, thank you so much, Douglas and Michael. Really appreciate you being here and sharing with us, and just beyond being here, all the work that you've done over decades to make the farm the community that it is today. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. All right, so now we will go, last but not least, to GaiaYoga Gardens. We have Anno with us here from Hawaii. I saw you drinking out of a coconut. I was just like, oh, I would love to be there right now and escape this winter. So, woo, beautiful. All right, excited to learn about your community. Go for it.
Hi. Well, I just want to say I feel incredibly envious seeing your 2 communities, the level of I mean, I don't even know what to say. There's just so much that you all have there. It's amazing. I started this place about 20 years ago with my partner at the time. And we are on 18 acres. I don't have a sophisticated slideshow like all you guys. And her and I couldn't really create anything together. So in 2009, I got together with another woman, and we really started to create something here. We have lots of tropical, it's a tropical environment. I don't know if you could see, but like my walls are screened. We don't have to pay $100,000 for a house. I don't have to build underground. Mostly we have tarp roofs. And we're all off grid, and so it costs maybe $2,000 to build a bedroom, a very nice bedroom here. That's and we live right next to the 2018 lava flow that covered half acre of our 18 acres, which was very scary. For 3 months we couldn't be here, and we never knew was our entire land going to get covered or not, and it didn't. So we came back. We've been back here for almost 5 years now. We peaked at about 30 some people in 2021. And for most of the last 5-8 years, we've had like between 15 and 20 people living here. And it wasn't until after the lava that we sold the property into a religious nonprofit, or not sold, but transferred the ownership of it. So, and actually set up a legal structure for having community and all that. And it's just been so hard. That's why I just feel incredibly envious, seeing you guys with, all these members and all these working systems. And I tell people that this is like a 10-cylinder vehicle running on 2 cylinders. It's just been so much challenge. And I think seeing the sort of cultural structures that you guys are living in, and kind of seeing the evolution of the farm that you all were showing, I'm really passionately pioneering like I don't even know how to say it. Like, I guess I would call it a clan-based culture. And I don't know, the people who've come here, it's like people come and they're like very interested and intrigued. And I can't tell you, I'm sure just like you guys gets all these emails of like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing. That's what I've always wanted. I can't wait to be there, blah, blah, blah. And then I don't even see from any of those people even another email. And then people come and, inevitably people hit some sort of wall and end up leaving. And it's really been heartbreaking. And it's the only word I can use. And I thought we'd kind of got through the other side, and we had about 7 trial members and 4 members, and looked like, hey, we're going. And then all of a sudden just everybody. And so for the last year, I've been in a real deep reevaluation, looking at like, what have we been doing and why did we produce the results we did? Because I hold this principle that designs reveal themselves accurately in life. And so there's something about the design of what we're doing here that produced this result. And when I look around the other communities here in Hawaii, none of them are really taking off. And some of it's a numbers game. If you live on the mainland, you have it's so much easier to get there. There's so many more millions of people to deal with. So even though, it's so nice being in Hawaii and, it's warm all the time. And, here I am in my winter socks. I don't know if you can see them here, but, it's like, it's really brutal. I have socks on my slippers, Yeah, no, just getting through that door, that birth canal and stabilizing has been very challenging. So, but I keep plugging away at it. I've been working on a book over the last year that I wasn't intending to write, that I think is really articulating the consciousness that is attempting to birth here. And it's just, I just, I don't want to say it. I guess I'm a purist. I don't know how else to say it. Like, I don't want to settle for anything less than what is really connected to our deepest humanity, socially and so in our souls. And so I think we're just pioneering something here that's really very, very on the edge of what people are capable of. And most people just leave because they're not ready to pioneer. So, but we're still here. And we have 4.5 members and some kids and some people hanging out right now, and a lot of empty beds. What else do I want to say? Yeah, I mean, we've had our own cows. Right now they're somewhere else because we don't have anybody to milk them. Yeah, so we're kind of just coming out into a rebirthing stage after a pretty painful dying stage. But the plants are all here, the trees are big and we produce lots of food. And what else do I want to say? No, I don't know if I have anything else to say. A lot of my rah, what we're doing was really taking the wind out of me, seeing these other 2 communities and just the depth of cooperation and how many people and the multi-generational nature and all that, which is what I want. and it's just been really hard to create. I don't know. It's yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Ano, for sharing honestly with us. I really appreciate that. And you're showing like the reality of community too. It's not always perfect or easy. And so I'm really glad that you're here. And, when we're putting together these virtual tour events, I'm sometimes just working with the communities that have signed up for that given month. So it's usually a smorgasbord of different communities, some forming, some in a good place, some in a not. It's all a mix. And I think that's the intention of this event, is to showcase that diversity within our movement. And shortly here, we're going to move into more of a panel discussion, because I'd love to hear any thoughts from our other presenters. I do see a question in the chat, or a prompt. Also, Michael says, Ano, I'm so grateful for and moved by your authenticity and transparency, and asks if you can say more about what you are about, like what is, maybe more about
Well,
what
I
the,
could, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I could say what I'm about, because, that's really, I mean, for better or worse, I'm still the kind of the driving force of this place. I started eating only raw food in 1990 and have been doing that ever since then. And I think that's actually a big challenge in this community, because, I don't cook, and I don't see that cooking is actually very good for human health, but, other people see differently. And so it's a lot of people come here and they explore that, and that's a big shift for them. I teach nonviolent communication. I've been in the Mankind Project, and a lot of those practices and principles are present in our community, the shadow work and the work in integrity and responsibility. We practice, sustainable agriculture and some blend of permaculture and Fukuoka and Korean farming and John Jevons' work. I think the place where there's been the most challenge is, and I can see it, in the eco villages, those two, is, it's just really figuring out how to handle family, money, and sharing. And I've written a lot of songs. I have a band called Nagdeo. If you're interested, we have a website, nagdeo.org, and our community's website is GaiaYoga.org, NAGDEO.org, and GaiaYoga, GAIAYOGA.org. And one of the, it's a simple lyric. It says, we're all learning to share. And I really see that learning to share is almost like the ultimate human achievement. And we just don't know how to share. And seems like the response to that is to fragment, is to, okay, I'm just going to leave and take my toys with me. And then we all kind of lose out on that, And so I think a lot of indigenous cultures, and they, they have so much diversity in the way they lived, but at the heart, they were all doing the same thing. They lived together, they raised their kids together, they buried their dead together, they hunted together, they built everything, they were one economic unit, and they had all different types of ways of handling sex and babies and rituals, but they just did it together. And it's really hard to figure out a way to do things together from people who don't know how to do things together. And so that's actually probably the biggest work we're doing, is just like demonstrating to people that there's more freedom in being together than being individuals. And it's a very tricky dance, the dance between sovereignty and community. And so, it's like I could see, if once you get over the hump, then you can kind of keep that energy alive. You have a hearth that stays, and people can come into it and out of it. But yeah, it's kind of like the hearth here blew out, and I was like, oh, that sucked. And I was trying to build it with people in their 20s, which I think was hard. They weren't able to do that. But I think I answered that question, probably a little bit more than that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and sharing more about what you think has been the challenge. And I I took some notes on what you said, like family money sharing. Oh yeah, those are the big ones. There is a question. Well, there's actually two questions. One may be simple. Someone's asking about access to the internet at your community, which is on the Big Island.
Yeah, I mean, here I am. Yeah, I'm on the internet.
You're here.
Yeah, no, we've kind of finagled our way through the cell phone system with a friend of, yeah, we have dependable internet access. We, as much as possible, just use Ethernet and don't use Wi-Fi for the EMFs. Yeah, you know,
Okay,
and
okay, great. And the link to your website and also your band's website has been put in the chat.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and then Yana has asked, what sort of person is a great match for your community? I think you've touched on this and the challenge of it with the sometimes tension between sovereignty and collectivism and being a community.
You know, the kind of person that's a match for this community is somebody who's, you know, really capable of commitment. I think more than anything, that's what I've seen. Like, I have a lot of principles that I hold to be, you know, true. One of them is that a chain breaks at its weakest link. And so if there is not a commitment in an endeavor, eventually the pressure builds up. And if there's no commitment, the person, for whatever good reason they find, leaves. There's a great quote that I heard that just says it all. There's this Hollywood couple was being interviewed, and they'd been together for 20 years, and the interviewer was like, God, that's just so amazing. In Hollywood, it's unheard of, 20 years. What's your secret? And the wife goes, we didn't get divorced. I mean, it's just that simple. And so I've looked a lot at that, you know, like, how do you create those rituals that actually create commitment so people stay together through challenges? You know, I mean, I'm, you know, looking at you two, 50 years, you know, I'm sure there's been 1,000 times you were like, I'm out of here, right? You know, this is impossible. It's not going to work. I can't do it, blah, blah, blah. But somehow you stayed through it. And so cultivating that capacity, you know, is, I think that's one of the greatest, like, challenges of opening someone's holistic heart. You know, it's the actual capacity to commit and to recognize, like, this is more precious than whatever fear and doubt is going to arise in me. I'm going to sit through this and make something happen. You know, and people can bring that to their kids, you know, and we see that in, like, athletes that can do it for a while in a game, but, you know, for the, you know, cradle to grave, living together, you know, I would say the greatest pain I have, you know, I guess I'm, you know, it's right there on the surface. It's just, I really offer cradle to grave relationship to people, and I don't get it back from them. And so, like, I'm willing to just, and that's why I'm still here. It's like, I'm willing to hold through whatever challenges there are to birth something that, you know, is just really goes against our conditioning so deeply. But if you don't have that, then, you know, at some point you're just like, it's too much. I'm out of here, you know. And then it's like, and I can feel it. It's like the beautiful thing. It's just that far away, but it's like, it seems like a light year away when you don't think you can do it. Mm. So that's actually a lot of what I'm working on, how to transmit to people, you know, who want to do that. So asking that question, someone who just is like committed to wholeness. I think that's really what it comes down to, is wholeness. You know, our wholeness in our relationship to nature, our wholeness in our relationship to spirit, our wholeness in our relationship to self, and then to our clan, community, family. You know, it's like the choice to fragment, to decide, well, this part of life doesn't matter. You know, oh, I don't need to be sustainable. Oh, I don't need to worry about, you know, my ex-wife. Oh, I don't need to care about my elders. Oh, I don't need to worry about pollution. Whenever we can decide that something just doesn't matter, then it becomes a lot easier to just move forward with something that isn't going to work. We have to slow down and consider everything, and then only move forward with things that actually work for everybody. And I'm sure you all know that, you know, the people who already presented. But it can look like you're not going to get what you want if you do that, you know, to slow down that much. So, you know, yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you again for sharing everything you have. Really appreciate it. And
You're welcome.
again, the honesty and transparency. And I'd love to shift now to opening this conversation up, to our other presenters. If there's anything on your mind that you'd like to share to Ano or to any of the participants who are listening to this conversation. And and again, it's true, all of our communities, my community included, has been through so many challenges. And we do present kind of the nice image, but there's challenge there too. And I think one of you said in your presentations, that's what makes it worth it, or can feel worth it, to move through those challenges because we believe in the community vision.
Absolutely.
So I'm going to stop talking for a minute and open it up if any of you would like to share something.
There's so much to say about this topic. I don't even know where to begin. Anna, thanks for sharing that. That was brilliant authenticity. And I know, Nancy and I are the next generation at Whole Village. Our founders are, turning 80 soon, and what's going to be here is they've carried it, they built it, and they were the people who could sustain a group and the work to get the buildings done, to keep those teams together, to find this place. And maintain for a while, and now we're coming in and looking at who are our partners. What are we creating for a sustainable future for Whole Village? Inside this vision and mission, it's what I came in for. It's what I feel strongly about: the regenerative aspect, healing the land, and who and how are we attracting people who have the commitment? It's an important aspect. I know Nancy and I can argue and have, task conflict, or get on each other's nerves, but we just come back to the table. It's because for me, what we're doing here supersedes any of that, my ego, because that's the part that gets me upset. If I'm feeling put out or whatever, my needs aren't being met here, it's my ego stuff. But there's a team of us here in this co-op that we come back on the court over and over again. And I'm sure the farms lived through generations of this. One of our previous members who passed a couple of years ago was at the farm, and shared some stories at Milt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And spoke about the conflicts. It takes something. It really takes commitment.
And we are a little bit at a divide where, the founders created this and they've kept it going for 20 years in their vision. And we're the young owners. There's younger people here, but we're the younger owners. And what's going to happen now? Because I don't think that people coming in want to necessarily just keep doing what the founders created and saw, and that there is a more in the future. And so attracting new members is tricky, as far as people who want to commit and really want to live their life differently. I like that one of Douglas said, cash out of the materialistic society. I think that's a great line, because that's kind of what it is. It doesn't cost a lot of money to live and to buy into Whole Village. Nothing like the real estate around here, which is all crazy now. But it's a big jump because people have been so individualistic. And so we are at a divide as well a bit. And that's part of the reason we're here talking, is we are recruiting as well for partners in this project, and also to create it even bigger and better in the future.
I'll just add that we definitely struggle with holding on to people. For every 10 people that join and try it out, 1 or 2 will stick. We find that our best people who manage to stick it out are former members who lived here back in the 70s that come back, and our kids. And then every once in a while, we can hold on to somebody that is coming from outside of those circles. And it's our size has been a definite advantage, because when you ultimately have those social dramas that come up with cabin fever every spring, that we can absorb that, because they're usually only involving 10 to 20 people within some circle, and they can resolve it. If they don't entirely resolve it, they can move into other circles within the community, and we can absorb that and let it, time heals. And so it's definitely been to our advantage, with our size, so that even though we're growing every year, it's really kind of in a trickle, of just a few new people each year, compared to the number of people who think they want to give it a try. Pass it around.
Yeah, I one of the things that really I just have a lot of emotions around is just like, it's sad for me to see that, places like you all and whatever communities in general, like we're in the ultra minority on the planet. I mean, I want to be on a planet where we are the mainstream, and like I'd like to just have like one little island set aside for people who want to live in the insane way that most of the world is living, and you guys could do that, and you can launch your nuclear weapons and just keep it all on this island, or whatever you want to do, pollute the hell out of it, and have the rest of the world be sane. And so like to see people who are sincere and they hit a wall in themselves, and then where else do they go but go back to, that same culture they came from. And it's such a squandering of potential, and it just breaks my heart. I'm just like, if I mean, how different it is to have 10 people working together than one or two, or 100. It's just like, it makes all the difference in the world. You could accomplish so much more if people could just figure out how to get along and sustain it. So yeah,
I'm encouraged that some of the changes in zoning are allowing for alternative housing, groupings of communities rather than single family or an apartment of sorts. It's starting to open up in different ways in some communities, not in a lot, but there's a shift. I think there may be interim steps to go from single family suburban to smaller, co-living, co-housing. This place is a huge jump for people because we are a small community in one house. You can't, like the farm, you can move people and absorb differences in a different way. Whereas we're like, we gotta work it out. You're gonna see that person every single day and every meeting, over and over. So
Reminds us of the old days, but so I can definitely, my heart goes out to you.
but and who knew 10 years ago that at this age I'd have so much opportunity for substantive growth as a human being on this planet. It just gives us this capacity to look inside and bring a level of consciousness to every conversation. It's beautiful. I could have been sitting on my porch in Toronto, just as Nancy said, just sipping the lemonade by myself in my bubble.
Like most people.
Yeah.
Something in there, Mike?
Michael, you have anything to add?
It's just all the dramas are the same, and we reflect what's happening in the world. I mean, people are fighting over stuff that really doesn't need to be fought over when you really get down to it. Sharing's really where it's at, but that's not the dominant. That's not the dominant group mind right now. Society's set up to like separate people and make us competitive, and we're going against the stream by doing this. And you can do that in your bubble, but then your bubble has to relate to the big picture. So there's always, you're walking a tightrope all the time. And I just see it's the same, for the small community and the middle-sized one and the big one. We have our conflicts. We have people leave, People come here and they'll stay for a few years and then leave. And then partly it's just that people change over time. That's another interesting thing, you know, we're not, what are we committed to? It's funny, that word commitment, I think that's very important. We just had a sociologist from Israel come and do a book on it. It's called The Aging of Aquarius, which I highly recommend. Look for it, The Aging of Aquarius. Galit Nimrod, she's a sociologist out of Israel, and she came out and spent some time here. And she really loved it. And what she said was, if it was one word to sum up why the farm is still here and doing well and all, it's commitment. And when we're committed to not just to being on this piece of land, but you realize there's more farmies in California than there are here. People who've been through. Remember, we had 1,500 people. Now we're like 200, right? And some of us are new. So the commitment is really to the broader. The farm community at large is greater than the farm community here, and we're so well connected. They have events out there every year, and they raise money for plenty, and we go out there, they come here. COVID slowed it down, but didn't stop it. Now it's picking up again. So, you know, I just look at it universally. I came in from thinking, how can we change the world? And well, in our local area, I feel like we've changed it a bit, but there's still there's 8 billion people now. And so hopefully what we're doing, and we're working with the Ecovillage network too, doing resiliency estimates of, there 20 different eco-villages in different parts of the world are doing the same thing. We're looking at how can we adjust to a temperature rise of two degrees. It's really going to happen. Probably we're not going to be able to slow it down enough. So what can we do? So we're in this program with eco-villages in different parts of the world, all trying to figure out what's the best means of sustainability. What can we do with what we have here? And we're fortunate. We have a big area. We have lots of trees. I think we're already carbon negative. Like we're not using. We might be putting out more. We don't be contributing more than we're, reducing carbon more than we're adding. I don't know, but we have thousands of acres of trees. I don't know. It's just it seems like we're all in the same boat, really, at a level, and that's just So we're just trying to be some of the adults in the room, and it's good to be connected with you all too. And we need to keep talking to each other about it.
Oh, yes, I resonate with that. Thank you all for being here, being the adults in the room, connecting with each other, sharing. And I'm looking forward to doing more of this with you and other communities. And I'm really glad for all of our attendees who are listening and asking questions and getting curious about community. I know for me and my day-to-day, because my whole work is about this, about intentional communities and helping people find community. And I sometimes just very consciously need to focus on that, because I can very quickly go into a spiral when I turn to face the many challenges in the world. And I think of the work of Joanna Macy, and she says there's a space for that too, like not to ignore it. Right. There's a space for going through that darkness and coming out on the other side and doing that healing work. So so much could be said. I think with that we'll begin to wrap up. Are there any other final thoughts that any of you, our panelists, would like to share with our group? Go ahead, Carrie.
I'm feeling the feels. It's just a lot of gratitude and positivity. There's so many people here in our communities locally, and then we get to connect with you guys and across the globe. And knowing that there are so many people working on bringing that healing to the planet, healing to people, sharing, bringing the concept of sharing and equity and fairness and justice forward. In spite of all of the onslaught of problems and news, it just warms my heart and makes it easier. Makes it absolutely. So sometimes it's overwhelming and there's a lot of grief. We're all processing grief on a lot of levels right now. But to be able to do this in community and sing in community and share in community, and this broader one is just it. Yeah, it makes bringing people on board and inviting people on the property here, integrating and going through all of these challenges so worthwhile to connect in all these different ways with each other. It's all of those interconnections that are weaving that tapestry of healing. So thank you all.
I want to encourage the people who are thinking about that they're interested in life and community to, think of a 10-year goal. Where do you want to be in 10 years? And if that's how you envision 10 years, where will you be in 5 years? What kind of steps do you need to take today to be where you want to be in the next year, 2 years, that bring you toward a life in community? Because it is possible and the rewards are so great. It's all about taking that first step.
Yeah.
I feel very appreciative to be involved and feel touched in my heart hearing all this and inspired. Yeah, and I hope some people show up here from this. And yeah, I'm very passionate about what we're doing here. And yeah, I think I've thought a lot about, what the process of babies going from crawling to walking. And, it's impossible to walk. And then you stand up and fall and stand up and fall and fall and fall and fall and fall and fall, and then you can walk. And, you never see a baby go, oh, I'll never be able to walk, or I'm not good enough, or I can't do it. Or, they just keep failing until they can walk. And so I remember that a lot. And I just want to bring that to all that we're doing. Like, we're just all learning to walk, and we can do it. We just got to be willing to keep failing until we are walking.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, I think we'll leave it at that, and we'll all go out and learn how to walk in our own ways and share with others. Good. All right. Thank you all again. Goodbye.
Thanks very much.
Namaste, y'all.
So fun talking to you. Thanks for sharing it all.
All right.
Thank
Goodbye.
you all.